If you load it up big, you better clear the rest. The solvent list takes away all my stress. Life's been feeling like kind of a mess. I'll never let a hater make me think less, because everything before this was just a test.
Bagsy Chronicles.
I'm riding, all the homies with me. Yeah, we've been getting hella faded.
Hello and welcome to the Bagseed Chronicles. It is your butted up bombardier of cannabis carbonite blasting away at the monotony of morose marijuana malarkey. And as always, it has been too long. I am Uncle Dig. I have a lovely show for you today, featuring a conversation with Daniel Morford, scion of Heartrock Mountain Farm and purveyor of Heart of the Lion seeds. But before all that, I bet you're wondering what's going on in my garden. Uncle Dig's garden update. Hello all, it is February 28th, 2025, and it is still too cold to grow where I'm at, so gardening zone doesn't matter. But we have the wonders of modern technology, so under the eternal sunshine of a few LED grow lamps, my garden grows in defiance of nature. I have 3 tents going, and they are all at various stages of growth. In my smallest tent, I have a Blue Eyes White Dragon from Gemseeker Genetics that is a feminized autoflower at day 31 and is just starting to enter its early flowering stretch, which is when the plant enters a period of rapid growth during early flowering. I hope this plant doesn't outgrow this tent. I have the light raised almost as high as it can go. This tent is my first try at a 24-hour light cycle. I started these seeds at 18.6 light cycle and then gradually transitioned to 24 hours on after day 9. I have no idea what effect this will have on the plant. In my taller 2x2, I have 2 autoflowers from Multiverse Genetics from the seed bank Multiverse Beans. One is a Starfruits and the other is a Titan 9. While both are at day 41, the Titan 9 is taller and trying to crowd out the tent in early flower, while the Starfruits is in a more advanced flower and has stopped stretching and is already in its middle flowering bulking phase. The Starfruits has just started to smell like hard rock candy stuck to the sidewalk in a summer heat wave. Very compelling. The Titan 9 smells of sweet herb. It will develop a more complex smell as it goes further into flower. All the plants I have currently are in my Fox Farms Ocean Forest mix with dry amendments and some Bokashi Earthworks, K-Humate fertilizer, liquid bone meal, SLF 100, and worm castings. I have just started another grow in my 4x4 in the garage, and I'm working to establish seedlings, all autoflowers. And this tent is on a 24-hour light cycle. I've actually established 6 seedlings as my Gorilla Cookies just broke the surface. So I've got that Gorilla Cookies from 420 Fast Buds. I also have 2 Titan 9s in that tent, as well as 1 Anvil from Gnome Automatics, 1 Blue Eyes White Dragon, and 1 Planetary Gas from Gemseeker. So I've got 9 plants going right now. So it's a banging indoor run right now. I'm super excited. Only one of my chickens is laying, so that sucks. One is old and the other stopped laying a while ago. I have started the late winter cutback. I have started pruning my roses and will start cutting back more stuff and blackberries as we get into March. The green bin will stay full. It's getting to be time to prep your outdoor spaces and start thinking about starting peppers, maybe in March, maybe in April. I don't know. Soon. That's it for my garden update. Have fun, guys. Stay safe if you can.
You know what this is?
All right, everyone, please join me in welcoming to the Bagseed Chronicles Daniel Morford from Pride of the Lion Seeds. Daniel is a cannabis grower and breeder from a family of cannabis cultivators. Welcome to the show, Daniel. How you doing today?
Good to be here.
Yeah, we're happy to have you. I've been following you on Instagram for a short amount of time, but I really vibed on the like what I could see of your home cultivation. It's really cool. And then I looked up some other pictures of some seeds, some autoflower seeds on the autoflower subreddit that were really impressive to me.
Mm-hmm.
So I was really excited that you agreed to come on.
Yeah. Yeah, we've been breeding autoflowers for a decade now. And me personally, I've been breeding cannabis for going on 23 years, and my dad since the 70s.
Oh, wow. That is just a lot to get to right there. So your dad has been cultivating cannabis since the 70s. Has he been doing that in a similar spot?
Yeah, so we're coming up on our golden jubilee at Heartrock Mountain Farm, which will be 50 years I think we're at 48 now. So we're almost to a golden jubilee of cannabis cultivation in one spot.
That is an achievement.
It will be. If we can make it, I think we're going to make it. We'll have to have a little party.
Well, I'm rooting for you over here at the Bagseed Chronicles. That would be an amazing party.
It will be an amazing party. Yeah, where are you located?
I'm up in Southern Oregon near the Medford area. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, my family lived in on my mom's side. They lived up there, Sam's Valley, for almost like 20 years.
Oh, okay. I'm actually not very far from Sam's Valley right now at all.
Yeah, I actually did a medical grow there after university.
Oh, okay. Cool. It's pretty.
I was like in the early days of medical.
Yeah. Things have changed a little bit culturally since the days of medical here. I kind of started growing kind of right amongst that change. I started growing in 2016 as on a personal level, and I've been doing it ever since in my yard. But yeah.
I've been growing for over half my life now, and then my dad, which was that great video on the Future Cannabis Project where I'm sitting down on YouTube with my dad and we're talking about the genetics, and because I love one of the stories from him that he was saving seeds since 1966, and that was like 10 years before he was 16 years old, so I think that was 10 years before he ever planted one in the ground. And and my late brother who passed away, he was a breeder, and just carrying on that family tradition. And my grandmother even grew down in Southern California in Topanga. I remember I was still in high school when she asked me to come down help her harvest, and I'm like, sure, Nana, that'd be fun. I can come down for the weekend. And she had a plant that was like 19 feet tall. It was up to her second story window. It's like my late 70s grandmother. I'm like, okay, I see why you asked if I'd come down.
Yeah. It's crazy. So that's not just 2 generations. That's 3 generations. That is.
Well, and then my older brother's kid, my nephew, he's 24 now, and he helps out on the farm sometimes. So he's the 4th generation now.
That is so cool. From my background, I'm from an illegal state. I'm a very illegal state with not much of a background that I'm aware of a degree of cannabis cultivation that California, Oregon, and to a lesser extent Washington have. Texas. So I don't often think of cannabis growing as something that could be like a family tradition going that far back. So that's kind of a mind blow to me.
Yeah, and I think 4 or 5 generations is about as far back as it goes in the States here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So your dad bred, is he's still growing cannabis?
Yeah. He had 6 plants in his personal garden, and still he's just turned 74, and he single-handedly finished the drip irrigation on our nursery section on the farm. So he's still staying busy and does more than office work these days for the farm.
Nice. My grandpa always tells me to move it or lose it. So, and he lives by it too. He changes out. He has a bunch of perennials in his garden, and every like 5 or 6 years, I swear he digs them all out and like plants new ones and changes everything. It's wild, and he's coming up into his 80s now. So you've been breeding autoflowers for 10 years now. Has that always been under the Pride of the Lion Seeds banner?
Yeah, that has always been, we do both. We have Heartrock Mountain Farm Genetics and Pride of the Lion Seeds, and we do have a nursery license on the farm. So it's kind of, and now like with the farm bill classifying, seeds as hemp, we're kind of, gonna blending those more together. So it's just gonna be, Pride of the Lion Seeds is becoming like the house brand for Heartrock Mountain Farm. But like when we get seeds into dispensaries in California, we have to have we have to put Heartrock Incorporated on it, because that's one of the requirements to have the entity that holds the nursery license. But it's all, and it's mostly the same, and they do not track and trace pollen. So I've taken pollen from Heartrock Mountain Farm and made seeds on multiple different locations in Northern California. If someone's got a good cut, I'll go out to their farm, we'll paint it up, we'll split the seeds.
So it sounds like some of the requirements can kind of limit what you can do, but I'm not quite understanding how.
I think at least before the Farm Bill classified seeds as hemp, because now you can have them in Texas where you couldn't have seeds before.
Oh yeah, okay, right. All right, that makes sense. I was missing that piece.
Yeah, so before that, you would have to have, like, you would see the packaging, like, novelty purposes only, not intended for any illegal use, collector's items only, or whatever. That would take away the intent, because there's nothing psychoactive in a seed. So in like a really, where it's a prohibition state, they would get you for the intent to cultivate. That's when you'd get in trouble for having seeds. But now with seeds being hemp, there's nothing.
That's part of why more people started sending seeds through the mail, whereas before it was kind of more covert.
Yeah, I think so.
I remember that they used to have friends that would receive seeds in like strange places, like they'd be in fishing weights or they'd be in stuffed animals and weird stuff like that to conceal them. And I was never part of the scene then. In my early 20s, when that stuff was going on, I was in the military. So I came out right when stuff started to open up a little bit. And then by the time, and I moved to Oregon when I got out of the Army, so I had always had legal medical cannabis as long as I was, able to use cannabis at all once I wasn't in a drug-tested job. So my perspective is a little bit different, so I don't remember those days. So those are like the old days to me.
Yeah, what year did you graduate high school?
I graduated in 2005.
Okay, yeah, I graduated in 2002.
Right.
I was signed up for the Army.
Oh, were you?
But I signed up. Yeah, I signed up my sophomore year, like delayed entry program, which was 2 years before 9/11.
Oh,
yeah. I was thinking, what I was like, when was the last like war we had? Desert Storm, some helicopters flying around the desert. I can go do my, I was a football player. I could do boot camp and then get my school paid for it, get a GI loan.
Uh-huh.
But then I broke my leg the summer I graduated on the 4th of July.
Ooh.
And I got discharged.
Yeah. They're not going to wait around for you.
I got discharged for vandalism of government property.
They actually did that to you. I got threatened with that a couple times, but it never happened.
Yeah, because I broke my own leg. So that was a government property I vandalized, I was like, are you sure you should be telling me this?
I almost got an Article 15 for vandalizing government property because I got a really bad sunburn one time. So I went on leave, and the day before I came back to Garrison, I was stationed at Fort Lewis, but I was down near Houston on Lake Conroe on this boat, barefoot, like all day, just drunk. And I came back and I was red as a lobster, and I was peeling, and we were getting ready to go to the field. And I was just going to go and suck it up. But the medic was like, I don't think you should go. He can't sweat properly. And my NCO was like, if he doesn't go, I'm going to nail him with an Article 15 for vandalism of government property. And I was like, dude, I thought that was a myth. I didn't think they actually did that to people.
Well, yeah, I mean, it was on my paperwork. I was shocked. I was like, what? Yeah, but because I don't know, but like you might want to keep that yourselves, guys.
It's a different world now. They're putting people in fat camp and stuff to get them into the army now. There's like a whole like.
Oh, it's crazy.
Well,
Yeah.
it said they're
I
having.
think
Yeah.
what was it, like 70% of people aren't fit for military service or something like insane like that.
Oh yeah. It's crazy, but yeah. But I do want to get back to cannabis. We could talk about so I when I first started growing, autoflowers had a reputation of being kind of small, which sometimes they still are, but they also had a reputation for lack of potency, which has never been my experience. My experience is sometimes I'll make a mistake and there'll be a very small plant, or the genetics won't have the potential to get more than 1 or 2 ounces on them. Sometimes I think that happens as well. I'm not the expert on autoflower growers, but my experience has always been that there's been no noticeable difference for me as far as potency from photo. Okay, cool. I was going to ask you, what do you think about that? Is there a difference between autoflowers?
Well, yeah, no, I mean, not just potency, but terpenes. I mean, we've had autoflowers test in the upper 20s for THC and 2 to 3% terpenes too, and like you would not be able to tell the difference if it was trimmed up in a jar.
Right.
There's no way to know. No way to know. And in size, there's 60-day autoflowers and there's 100-day, and we kind of specialize more in the 100-day. And I've harvested an autoflower in 91 days that's 6 feet tall.
Yeah, that's crazy. I haven't grown one that big. I think my height record was not my best yielder. I had a really stringy autoflower that I think was like almost 4 feet tall, but my biggest yielder was a 4-ouncer that I did, and that's been my biggest one so far. But I don't think I've got the water.
The line claw autoflowers, there's people I know that pulled, a pound per plant, outdoors.
Yeah, and I wanted crazy. When were they starting those outdoors
you definitely got to hit that time right. So I think it's starting April, harvesting June, July, hitting that perfect, there's definitely that perfect window for an outdoor autoflower for maximum yield.
Yeah.
And you can, I also like to start them so they finish in October and November too, just because they turn pretty, or because autos do well, late or early season, just get a little bonus run in, but it's nice to do them, to harvest in June or July, or if people that are in areas where it rains a lot, and I was like, pick your driest 30 days in time to finish then.
Okay.
And someone just sent me a video of their garden in Panama with the lion claw autoflower of ours, and just crushing it. They're like, these are doing so good.
Yeah, the lion claw was one. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, in tropical regions where it's 12-12, most of the time, you don't really want to grow a 60 or 70-day autoflower. You want to grow a 100-day auto because they're going to veg slower.
Right.
In that. So because people go, oh, autoflowers don't work here. Well, no, try a 100-day autoflower and you're going to be impressed.
So you're saying that if you want to grow a bigger autoflower plant outdoors, especially if you're having an equidistant day length, you really want to grow a longer day autoflower so it has time to veg longer before it goes into flower, so it can get bigger. Okay.
Yep.
That's good, and that's something that I don't think I knew when I first started growing autoflowers outdoors. I haven't figured out the timing for my area yet because I'm trying to start them when it's warm enough for them to get established. So I've started in early May, and that was still too early. And then I've started.
Yeah,
I think.
And the nice thing also about 100-day autoflowers is you can transplant them.
Oh, okay.
Like all autos are transplant sensitive, but 100 days more forgiving because you got more time. You got more time for it to recover and veg, so you can Still don't want to let them get. So you can start like 100-day in the greenhouse. Start it in a 4-inch to 1-gallon pot. And then when it's ready to go into the ground, it might be the better timing.
Okay. That might be the way to go.
That's a myth too. When people say autos can't be transplanted.
Okay, but is there a certain time that it's best to transplant them, as far as like on their day count, or does it have to do with how big the root ball is? How do you time?
Definitely how big the root. Yeah, you just don't want them to get root bound. So.
Okay.
Yeah, it depends. It's not a day count; it's a size count, because depending on your climate influence, the sizes are gonna be different. But if you just start 100-day autoflower in like a 2-gallon pot in a greenhouse,
yeah,
it wouldn't. By the time it was ready to get put in the ground, it wouldn't need to be transplanted again. It would just be ready to go into its forever home.
Okay.
Or the finishing pot, and with if you're growing in like containers, I wouldn't. If you want to get maximum yield from a 100-day autoflower, I would recommend like a 10-gallon, at least a 10-gallon, 10 to 20-gallon pot.
Oh, okay. All right.
Because like I said, they'll get big. But if you're, and then if you're trying to keep them smaller, I've had 4-foot 100-day autos in 5-gallon pots.
Yeah. So what I've been doing, 18 to 24-inch tall autos outside for the last 2 summers. I've been pretty happy with the ones that get that big, but some of them haven't been.
Yeah. Well, yeah, if you haven't tried the Lion Claw, it's like a signature one.
Okay. Yeah, I might have to try that this upcoming summer outside. I'm already planned to the gills this winter, and honestly, into next winter, my indoor is completely like spoken for, just because I've agreed to test, so many people's seeds, and there's just other stuff that I want to run. I'm sure you know what that's like.
Are you flowering? Do you have a veg room?
No. Well, it depends.
No, okay, yeah.
So, right now I'm vegging and flowering my autoflowers in the same tent. So, like, I'll just do a batch run. So I've got one run in one tent right now, and then another one plant run in another tent that's like 10 days behind it. And then by the end of this week, I'm hoping to have my garage run up, and then I'll start another autoflower run out there. And then when the ones in here finish, I'll start my outdoor photo period selection, just basically finding females. And that'll be getting ready for outside.
That's the nice thing about autoflower. It's like, if you're not doing light depth, you might as well grow a couple autos and have fresh flower in the summer.
Yeah, that's what I do. So I always grow, generally my biggest run indoors in the winter is an autoflower run. Then I grow photo periods outside in the summer, as well as an autoflower run outside. So when I try to time it to where right when my other outdoor plants are going into flower, like at the middle of September, when they first start flowering, my first ones start flowering, my autos are either finished or almost finished. So then I'm harvesting basically from the end of the summer all the way into November is how I like it generally.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do a similar, but I usually just grow for seed for autos these days. It's been a few years since I've had the ambition to do a flower crop.
Yeah,
There's just so many lines to work and breed up, and yeah,
that's one of the reasons. One of 2 reasons I didn't get into breeding is I like just growing a bunch of different flower. That's why I like autoflowers. It's like it's more fun because you can grow one thing, and everyone's like, "Oh, every autoflower is slightly different," and I'm like, "Yeah, that's why I grow them. I grow a big crop of outdoor photo period. That's my everyday medicine. I do a lot of research into those selections, and I take them from certain breeders I trust and who know what I like, and they recommend certain stuff to me. And then the autoflowers, to be honest with you, started out as a crapshoot. I'm like, that flavor tastes good. Let's try that. So like the autoflower garden started out as a purely recreational, like, I've heard these things are cool, I've seen them on YouTube, let's go. And now they're an integral part of my garden, and indoors I actually prefer them to photo periods.
Okay. Yeah. Just they perform better with the light situation.
Yeah, I seem to get better yields indoors off of them, and I have a very short attention span. And
Right.
when an autoflower is in veg, you can, if you check it in 12 hours, you can tell that it's gotten bigger sometimes. So that's a lot of instant gratification for me when I check my tent after I've gone to sleep. And hey, look, this leaf is bigger demonstrably than it was when I went to bed. Cool. That's why I like them. And it keeps me in that childlike approach that makes me excited to go see my plants every day.
I mean, they're definitely fun to grow, and we've got some hash autos now too for that people made some rosin with. It turned out really good, and I was working on like a 6-year project that I just completed last year, where I took the Lion Claw, crossed it in with a Tahoe Kim, bred it fully auto, and back crossed it to the mother cut of that same Tahoe Kim line that I had seeds of, and then bred that fully auto again. And then this last summer just made it fully auto again last summer. And the small population of seeds, I'll be breeding those up this spring, and it'll have a fully auto Tahoe Kim that I'm really excited about.
That's cool that you've done that. So by going back and forth like that, do you make it so it's more stable across the seeds that you pop?
Yeah, so in breeding anything, whether it's regular photo periods, if you that you 3 generations down to 6 generations down, back crossing to the original to make it more like what you're looking for. Because when I crossed the Lion Claw in with a Tahoe Kim, it made a new autoflower, but it wasn't a Tahoe Kim autoflower. So then I back crossed it to the Tahoe Kim, and now after that back cross, it looks and smells more like the Tahoe Kim.
Okay, so you're selecting for that specific trait, and so the more you cross it into itself, the more it stabilizes, so you pull more. That is cool. Thank you.
Not the more you cross it, you really just need to, if you do it right, you just need to do it once.
Okay.
Because then if you keep back crossing into it, you might lose some of that vigor, and from what I've noticed.
So you really like working with that Lion Claw, and now you're getting ready. So is that Tahoe Chem Auto released yet, or is it going to be released soon?
It is not going to be released yet. It's not ready. I only have like a couple dozen seeds on it.
Yeah, because I get when like some of the funkier and chemi and like more off smelling.
Yeah.
Like I get excited about that stuff.
But we do have it in its current form, which is before the back cross. So it's the Lion Claw with the Tahoe Kim. It's an F3.
Okay.
Definitely you get, because the Lion Claw is kind of like skunky, sweet, grapey. So you do the so the Lion Claw with the Tahoe Kim, you do get some funky phenos for sure. You get some OG Kimmy phenos. It's definitely, and it's potent. It's probably because actually we that was the only time I've ever pheno hunted a male, and that was with the Tahoe Kim. And we pheno hunted a high THC male, and we still haven't gotten the Lion Claw. I call it Lion Claw Reserve, the Lion Claw by Tahoe Kim. We've never gotten that tested. I would imagine it, hits around 30%, just from what we did with the male, what the Tahoe Kim test at, and what the Lion Claw test at. It would definitely be upper 20s.
Nice. Yeah, so definitely some potent cannabis.
Yes.
So you've been so that's the Tahoe Chem is a photo period, and the Lion's Claw is an autoflower. So are those two of like your main lines on the either side? Because you breed autoflowers and photo periods, correct?
Yeah, we do.
So
I mean, the lion claw was one of the original autoflowers we started with. There was a couple other ones, and we
okay.
definitely, the lion claw is so special that we definitely use that, and we bred it into lots of different full term varieties. I think we have in the catalog now probably 40 to 50 lion claw hybrids that have been crossed into photo periods and then bred fully auto again, and then I have another like 300 partial auto, semi-auto flowers from that. Yeah, I have an insane amount of work.
Yeah, that's crazy. Your notebooks must be almost impossible to like read.
I mean, it's just breeder notes. A lot of it, if you don't know what it is, like it'd be, L, G, GL, TD. You wouldn't know that's Golden Lemon's turbo diesel,
Right.
unless you're me. And then I usually, yeah. And
so you have a system that you use to keep notes.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
Do you digitize your notes or do you use analog?
I've started to. Yeah, I have. But like I find that I really only need to make a note if I give something a new name.
Okay.
Like if I give it a name other than what genetics are in it. So if I, like I named an OG strain after the Lake County diamonds that we find next door that are called Moon Tears. So Moon Tears OG. I'm like, I don't remember what that is. I'm gonna have to look it up. Oh yeah, that's a blueberry Afghan by Holy Face Off. Now I'd have to look that one up because it has to. But if it's just, has the genetic lineage in the name, I remember. But I have started to make notes and catalyze things. But a lot of it's still just in my head.
Yeah. I tried to do that. The first grow, my notes were only like half a page, and now I think I take up about half of one of my little notebooks a year. It really helps me like figure out like avoid making the same mistake twice. It helps me make new mistakes sometimes, but I don't make the same mistakes over and over again, where I feel like the first couple years I grew, I would run in to the same issues over and over again because I wasn't taking notes and I wasn't like paying really close attention to what I was doing.
Yeah. I've always had like a photographic memory, which definitely helps. And but as I get older and the kids, small children, definitely the lack of sleep, starting to write some more stuff down.
So when you graduated college and you were growing in Southern Oregon for a little while, did you notice anything different back then that people were doing differently here or there? Or is it a pretty
I mean, it was at the very beginning of medical there. Like not a lot of people was growing. And,
okay.
It was like, we did me and my little brother and stepdad, we did do a light depth, but we just carried 5-gallon pots in and out of a cargo container.
I had a buddy that did that with a shed one year. He just lugged his plants in 5-gallon buckets in and out of his shed every night. And I'm like, dude, this seems, I would just leave them out. Dude, it does. But like, to me, I was just like, why don't you just leave them out there, bud? Just leave them out there. What are you doing?
But yeah, it was like just early on, and I just did a season up there, because actually, I went up there my little brother was failing high school, and my mom asked if I'd come help him graduate. So I helped him like study and graduate high school, and then just built a medical garden for my mom and stepdad while I was there.
Nice.
And then been back at the family farm ever since.
Do you remember what you grew that year?
Oh, we grew some of our just family heirloom stuff and some clones.
Could you tell us about some of your family heirlooms?
Yeah, so we have because my dad started with bag seed from Colombia, Mexico, Latin America. And then one of the neighbors brought in indica from. He was actually a freelance high times photographer.
Okay.
And he brought in. He was in Colorado doing a shoot, and they had genetics from Afghanistan.
Oh,
In
okay.
indica. So he brought in the first indica. So those were kind of then hybridized into the Latin American hybrids that my dad had too, and then me and my older brother crossed those in with a few designer stuff. Like we have that crossed in with some, blueberries and diesels and stuff like that. And, Jade Skunk, one of the heirlooms in our catalog, and Sour Afghan is another one that, these remind me of what my dad and brother were growing 22 years ago when I first came into the garden to help.
Right. Yeah, I see a lot of people like talking about like lost terps or whatever, like, but I think that if we wait long enough, I think that stuff may come around again.
I think it is actually coming around again. Yeah. And it's cool because that Sour Afghan and that Jade Skunk, they're testing high for guayuol, which is the terpene found in Afghan landrace.
Okay.
So, I was breeding these when in the second generation where recession traits can come out. That terpene came out, and I selected for that terpene without even realizing what I was doing. I just was like, there was the nostalgia of smelling what I remembered.
I'd like to smell that again. I've come close in early flower, and then it kind of went away in late flower. I haven't quite. It didn't stick around. Because when I was in Afghanistan, they had this. They had these cannabis grows behind the police station. I think it was near a place called Marja. I'm not sure. It's been years now. But they had that. We thought that they had a dead body behind the police station. We're like, listen, guys, we don't know what happened, but like, if you've got a dead body out back there, we've got to like take it out. And like, we thought that there was a hygiene issue. We thought they just had a corpse like in their backyard, just like rotting in the open air. And we're like, guys, you're gonna get sick. And they're like, no. And we're like, okay, well, what is it then? We're not gonna be mad. Just what is that awful smell? And they took us behind the police station, and it was this like 6 foot tall, all like purple but almost black, like cannabis plant, and it just reeked like death. And we're like, and then we smell, it was rancid, and I've been chasing that ever since.
Yeah, I mean, we get some phenos in our Sour Afghan and our Jade Skunk that smell like a dog got sprayed. It's definitely, some of those original family genetics do go back to Afghan 1 and Skunk 1 that were brought into in the, I think, early 80s.
Yeah. And I don't know if those at that point when I was there, because this would have been 2009. I don't know if those would have been hybridized at that point, because I know that some people say that like after a certain point, and no one can agree on when, right? But after a certain point, all the seed stock is no longer land race. It's all hybridized because just cross pollination and open air grow and whatever. But I don't know.
Right.
No one can agree on when that is, or if it's happened yet, or whatever. And so I'm kind of skeptical of anyone who tries to nail it down to a year. Like, oh, after 2010, there's no such thing as a land race or whatever. I don't know, but I do know that at some point, we're gonna have found all the land race or feral cannabis, and there won't be anything new under the sun. That doesn't mean that everyone will have tried everything, but there's gonna be less blind spots as far as like the global knowledge on like terpenes and stuff.
Yeah, and like you said, lost, but it is a matter of, because you can select for those recession traits. So even with hybrids, you can, you make enough seeds, you can find, you can find what was lost, from my experience, or find, and make something new. It's always changing.
What is there anything about like the culture, like because y'all have grown through complete prohibition, through California medical and then up through complete, like what we call legalization. You know, we can quibble over what that means, right? And we could if we wanted to, but I don't really want to. But
Yeah.
right. But what I will say is you've gone through like what I would, if we wanted to break down the eras of California, like cannabis, like home growing or cultivation or commercial cultivation, you know, I would say it was like for the novice anyway, it's like 3 eras, right? Complete prohibition, medical,
Yes.
and then whatever we have now, legalization, let's call it. And each era has its own like pratfalls and downfalls and things that were good about it and things that were bad about it. But as far as like the genetics and access is, I think now's better, but is it harder sometimes to like find quality stuff to work with, or is it easier now that everything's so wide open and there's so many people out there doing it?
Well, yeah, I think, you know, because it's definitely just a bigger neighborhood now for people like sharing and distributing genetics, and you know, we're into like the regenerative agriculture scene, and that's a big part of it. It's like a lot of genetic sharing, and you know, there's a lot of good stuff out there, and of course, there still are people like, you know, that have preserved land races and stuff, and you know, it's you know, growing up in the prohibition of cannabis in California, and you know, seeing medical and then recreational, it's like, yeah, I don't long for the prohibition days when the prices were better, you know, but it is unfortunate that, you know, seems like corporate cannabis, you know, took over and a lot of small farms went out of business. You know, just like I read an article once that for every Walmart that went up, 40 small businesses went under. So it's not surprising. It's disappointing, you know, the whole corporate roar out of everything.
Totally, I agree with that. There's a lot less room for mom and pops just in general, and it was sad to watch that happen with the cannabis scene, in California and in Oregon too. And you know, a lot of people look at prohibition or the medical days as a golden age. And one thing I will say is I think there was a lot, like I don't know anything about prohibition. Like I started like trimming when it was still medically legal, but like generally illegal in Oregon. And I think as far as like quality across the board, like those were the medical days were some of the best. Like anybody who was like, it just seemed like all of the weed that you would get was pretty good. Like I think
the people definitely, you know, I think the medical days was the pinnacle for craft cannabis too, because it was a more small operators where it's, you know, like rec cannabis might be the death of craft cannabis, because like here in Northern California, 90% of legacy operators are done.
Right.
You know, so it's like, yeah. And then you have to be really good at marketing now to get you know, to stay in business as a craft operator, because, you know, so but who knows what this industry is going to look like in 10 years.
Yeah. And that's what I always tell people, like, if you can, grow at home, because like I don't know about you. Like I'm not the wealthiest man, and I generally am not looking to pay the price at the dispensary for the quality of cannabis that I can grow at home. Like it doesn't make sense. Yeah. Even if it gets really expensive for me to cultivate at home, I don't want to buy I don't want to depend on buying $3 a gram cannabis. Like I don't want to do that. Yeah. I would rather spend that $3 a gram at home and have a much better product. And I'm not even saying I spend that much. I spend way less, especially outdoors. The first year I grew outdoors, it was 2 cents a gram. I thought I calculated it out. I don't do it anymore, but I calculated it out the first year, and it cost me 2 cents a gram to produce.
I mean, homegrown is usually better, no matter what it is, you know?
Yeah. I agree.
And then if you are buying in a dispensary, like, you know, support sun-grown regenerative farmers, because then, you know, you're also going to get a richer product, and you might not have the ability to grow, outdoors and living soil where you're at. So definitely when, if you are at the dispensary, support the regenerative small farms.
Yeah, you should for sure do that. And like he said, not everyone can grow at home. But you'd be surprised what you can do with like a little 2x2 space. I've grown, 2 ounces is 2 ounces, and you can go a little bigger. I'm not the best indoor grower. I think when people hear my yields on autoflowers, I'm telling you, you listener can probably do better. I'm not when I tell people what I'm getting, I'm just trying to be honest. So if I'm finishing an autoflower and it finishes at 2 inches tall and I get one bong rip out of it, I'm posting that on my Instagram right next to the 3 foot tall autoflower. Both of them are getting posted. When I cull something, I'll tell you this one didn't germinate right. And I pulled it out and tried to write it, and that didn't work. So this seed is broken. I'm going to get rid of it, You don't have to be some sort of like scientific expert to grow good cannabis. You just have to be a decent gardener, which is not that unattainable. It's not unattainable. People think it's really, really hard, and it's really, really not. You just have to have some sort of consistency.
And then you can learn the science as you go. It's like the desire to grow something is all you need to start.
Yes.
Like I'm still learning, because, and especially with the breeding, definitely learning more of the science and
Yeah, I'm getting to the point where I really need to start learning more about soil science.
Sure.
I've kind of been in the very long like monkey see, monkey do, like kind of like.
I mean, the first step is you send it off to the lab.
Yeah.
And just see what's in there. Especially if it's your outdoor beds, you don't need to you buy a mix. You don't need to test that. But if you're like trying to build some, soil in your yard or raised bed, you might want to find out what's in it, because then, and then a lot of these labs will tell you what you should put into it too.
Right.
So it's pretty easy first step.
Yeah, I do need to get my soil tested. I've been recycling potting mix the last few grows. And
are you doing cover crops in your backyard or?
Not exactly. No, I've been completely. So I didn't really do no-till, but I grew in a mixture of like some like commercially available potting mix. I did Fox Farms, and then I did a mixture of dry amendments and some liquid bone meal and some other stuff, but nothing that wasn't organic. And then I did pretty good. I did better the first run though. I need to probably honestly test that soil and probably amend it in a more educated way.
And if you can get some local wood chips, like put that on top.
Okay.
Get that. If you can get some biochar or make some biochar in your backyard, it doesn't take much. You could, I don't know where you're at, and then and if you do start to switch to no-till, you will see an increase in terpene production over like 3 years.
Okay.
Sometimes 3 to 5 years, you'll see an increase in terpene production.
What's the smallest container you would recommend for no-till? Did I lose you?
Sorry, what was that?
What's the smallest? What's the smallest container that you would use for no-till, or is there like a? Because I know for some organic people will say no less than 20 or no less than 30. What's your like?
Yeah, because the issue is that in the heat of the summer, you're gonna kill your biology in a small container.
Okay.
But so if you are doing this in container outdoors, insulate it. Get some burlap around the container, or even just put straw around it.
Okay.
Get a little insulation from the elements, and you could probably have living soil in anything. But it's like not if you go raise beds. It would be the next step, or in ground, and get out of the containers and into the ground, into raised beds that are, connected to the ground through, got a gopher screen or whatever, or no screen at all.
Oh,
If
that's a good recommendation, is a gopher screen.
Yeah, and if you have also, if you have gopher issues, plant some potatoes. Ganja's spicy. Most things would prefer to eat something else.
Okay.
So, in a good, it's almost March. That's the time to plant your potatoes.
Okay.
And they grow. It's a good, not companion plant, but you can grow them right under the ganja. They do fine. They do great. They don't mess with each other.
Okay.
And then you got great potatoes too.
Do you grow them like right like how close to the cannabis are you growing the potatoes?
Well, I mean, I don't plant them the first year right underneath the root ball, but sometimes they end up, because then, and you're so here on the West Coast,
Yeah.
it does not get, you can leave, but when you harvest your potatoes, leave a couple in the ground, and critters will spread them around too. They don't freeze. They'll overwinter in the ground, and they just, and then you can just, like where we're at, we just keep spreading them around, and that at any given time, you might, on a small farm like ours, you might have hundreds of pounds of potatoes to harvest, which is pretty cool.
Oh, so you're just digging them out all the time.
Yeah, so I plant them like 2 feet from the root ball outdoors, but then they definitely do end up underneath them over time, and that's fine.
Okay. All right. Interesting. Okay. That's interesting. I wouldn't have even thought of doing that. That's wild.
Yeah. Potatoes is a good one, especially for the rodents, the gophers. They'll leave your plants around alone.
That's kind of cool. You're just giving them something else, a different target to hit instead of your plants, and they'll take it because they don't want to eat your root ball over that, because that's way easier to eat.
That's kind of like, there's like that push and pull of pest management. So you're trying to attract things or repel things, attract them to something else.
Right.
Might as well have some homegrown potatoes with your homegrown ganja.
Totally. Yeah, I'm every year that I garden, the more I grow, the more I realize I have to learn. Like, it doesn't seem like a thing that you run out of stuff to learn, for sure. So it's an endless thing.
That should never stop, right?
Oh yeah. And my wife and I were just talking about, like, a friend of ours just gave us some cinder blocks, and we're talking about maybe starting a vegetable raised bed. And then so eventually I might do a cannabis raised bed too. So that'll be over a couple of years though, because those blocks aren't cheap.
You hay bales works pretty good too, and then you can use them for a season, and then put the hay on top of the soil, and it's a good way to, because hay and manure is one of the cheapest ways to build soil.
Right. I know.
We just started a veggie garden. Got it under in a hoop house. So it's we covered the hoop house with some greenhouse plastic, started some carrots, brassicas, kale, lettuce, greens, kind of get a jump start on the season.
Nice. I'm not starting any vegetables yet. I don't even know what I'm growing yet. I'm going to do a late season. So nothing goes out till May, so I've got a little bit of time. You know what? I take that back. I think I'm going to be planting peas sometime this month, actually. I just don't know where yet.
We planted some peas too. Yeah, some sugar peas, snap peas.
Yeah, that's what I want to grow. I was heartbroken. I usually grow sugar snap peas or snow peas for my wife. Every like early spring, but the last couple of years she was on like some like anti-inflammatory diet where she asked me not to grow her a bunch of peas, and then this year she told me I can grow peas again, and so like I'm really excited, but like I don't know where I'm growing them because the place I was growing them has been taken over by something else, and so I'm like, what do I do?
Yeah, we have a lot of space, too much space.
Yeah. Space is at a premium here, and I've got some old garden infrastructure that I need to knock down and move around. And I've got a lot of like clearing I've got to do. I'm kind of been behind on chores. I was in a car accident in November, and it's just put everything 3 months behind. So I'm sure you've had stuff like that happen to you, where it just knocks everything back 3 months, and you're just like constantly playing catch up.
Oh, for sure. I mean, my joke about farming is that a farmer is never caught up on work. The seasons just change.
Right? Yeah. Well,
Yes.
was that. We're coming up just shy of an hour, Daniel. Thank you so much for being on the Backseat Chronicles. Is there anything you want to let our audience know before we head out?
Yeah, I mean, just check us out at heartrockmountainfarm.com. Follow us on Instagram at Heartrock Mountain Farm. Then you got to spell that completely out because we're shadow banned, and Pride Line Seeds, and hit us up to get some awesome genetics.
Yeah, do that. Thank you so much for being on the Backseat Chronicles, Daniel. We'll see y'all next time.
Right on.
Thank you for listening to the Backseat Chronicles. Your listenership is valued. And if you value this podcast, why don't you share it with a friend if you want? Don't keep it a secret. Podcasting is a performance art. Oh, he just... Oh, shit. Okay.